Hi guys, so welcome back to another episode of the Property Sourcing Success Show. And look, what I really want to talk to you guys about, I want to deep dive on a topic which is essentially avoiding the absolute dipshit nonsense that's out there, avoiding the absolute bullshit that's out there. And I want to talk to you about building true generational wealth through property. And this is a topic that is really, really close to my heart, but also it's really crucial, it's really critical for anyone who is wanting to achieve genuine financial freedom. And I know that phrase genuinely gives me the ick, because financial freedom is something we see sprouted across social media day in and day out by people who are trying to sell you courses that will really not move the needle in terms of the goals that you have to achieve. So on today's topic and on today's podcast, what I really want to talk about is how to build generational wealth through property. And trust me, the one thing that I really want to do is avoid all the fucking nonsense, all the bullshit, all the hot air, all the blowing smoke, and I just want to talk facts. Here's the reality. If you want to be wealthy, which by the way, it's the reason most people get into property. Well, it's a twofold reason. A lot of people get into property first and foremost as a means, as an escape from, in my experience, a corporate job. It's to increase their cash flow. It's to build a bit of a lifestyle business. But if you want to be wealthy in property, and I mean like genuinely wealthy, not just for you, but for your family, for your kids, maybe for their kids too, generational wealth, then I want you to stick around and listen to this episode, because I believe it's packed with a lot of valuable insights that I have taken from my 8 years running my property business, and it really could help shape your own financial future. And one of the 4 or 5 core values that I have within my property business, and certainly within the circle that I keep around me who are involved in property, it's generational wealth, okay? But let's face it, wealth alone isn't about accumulating assets. It's also about developing a skill set. Developing a skill set that is necessary to truly and wholeheartedly monetize and manage the assets that you accumulate effectively. Because if you accumulate a shit ton of assets, but you haven't fucking clue how to manage them and how to multiply them, then it's never going to end well, is it? If you were to inherit a mega mansion, you might be absolutely over the fucking moon. But when you realize everything that comes with inheriting that mega mansion, the financial burden that that mega mansion might bring to you, then things take a slightly different turn. Now, that particular scenario really serves as a very powerful reminder that assets alone will not make you rich. Sounds counterintuitive. It's not something we hear in the world of property an awful lot, but it is 100% true. Assets alone will not make you rich. You need the skill set to turn a potential liability into a profitable venture. You need the skill set to be able to spot speed bumps in the road and navigate the obstacles. There is a lot of noise, there is a lot of hype online, and it can be really challenging to determine what skills actually matter, what skills actually move the needle when it comes to building true wealth through property. So in this episode today, I want to break it down for you in the manner that I have become accustomed to, following a skill set that I have tried to hone over the last 8 years that have stood to me well. I am still learning, I am still evolving, I am still growing, but these are the skill sets that have stood to me well over the last 8 years. So let's start with a very brief personal journey. So for those of you who maybe are quite new to the podcast, maybe new to my daily email blogs. By the way, if you don't get my daily email blogs, why the fuck not? Be sure to check your spam, because Gmail can be an asshole sometimes. But I send daily email blogs, all things property sourcing, portfolio building, and generally building a lifestyle business through property. But for those of you who are not too familiar with me and you're pretty new, I began my journey in property in 2016 whilst on maternity leave with my son. I spent the first 12 to 13 months honing my craft of sourcing on behalf of other investors. The main driving factor for me, the main driving force for me was the fact that I really didn't want to go back to work in that corporate job, and I needed an out. The corporate job was just becoming exhausting. It involved a lot of travel. My time was not my own. And as a new mum, that travel was just a non-negotiable for me. I had no money, I had no property connections, and I had no background in property whatsoever, okay? Fast forward to 2025, and I have completely transformed my life. life. I have a significant buy-to-let portfolio that more than replaces my corporate salary from 8 years ago. I've built one of the fastest growing property sourcing education communities in the UK. I have a consultancy aspect of my business that pays more than £10,000 per month just on a consultancy basis. I've got a lifestyle that involves holidaying every 6 to 8 weeks. My husband's a teacher, so we generally tend to take a trip away as a family every time the schools take a midterm break or a random long bank holiday weekend. Now, that's not to impress you, that's simply to tell you that's what property has done for me. Buy-to-let portfolio more than pays and covers my salary. Consultancy business that pays crazy money for very little work. Online education community, fastest growing, of no nonsense, no bullshit fluff. Right? We don't fucking want nonsense. So that community is something I'm incredibly proud of. That community is something I'm incredibly safeguarding of. Not a penny of what I have today was given to me. Not a penny of what I have today was inherited. I wasn't entitled or gifted anything. Okay, I threw myself into property sourcing, which is essentially a service that identifies the investment needs for other investors. Now, that particular journey taught me not only about the property market, but also, and this is really important, the essential skills that are required to thrive. And you may often wonder why some people seem to do so well when it comes to the arena of sourcing and portfolio building, and others seem to fucking die off. So let's talk about the 4 or 5 key skills that have helped me build my wealth as it stands today. Now, if you want to create a successful property business and make real money, and this is important because everybody's idea of what real money is will vary. But if you want to build a business and a lifestyle that means you don't need to worry about financial burdens, that means you don't need to be concerned about what might come down the road, that means you are set in your own lifetime and maybe into your kids' lifetime. That's what real money is in the world of property. And in my opinion, you need to master 3 or 4 key activities. Number 1 being strategic thinking. You need to understand the challenges, the pain points that investors face. There is a reason why when you're working with investors, we really want you to get under their skin, get into their head, understand what keeps them awake at night. And your aim should 100% be to create a service that genuinely adds value. Your aim should be to create a service within your portfolio building business that alleviates all the headaches they have that keep them awake at night. The second thing that you need to master is marketing and sales. That's probably the biggest area people do not pay attention to. Attracting the right clients and effectively communicating the benefits of your services. That is what you need to become a master of. You have to remember, guys, that property investing isn't just about bricks and mortar. Fundamentally, at the root, at the foundations of it all, property investing is about people. Cliche, but fucking true. The third thing that you need to master is operations and systems. Now, here is the reality. Speed is key. And this is something I really harped on with the guys inside our 6-figure property blueprint this week when we had our monthly accountability call. Speed is key, okay? The early bird catches the worm. The lazy bastard gets fucking nothing. Speed is key. So the more efficiently you can deliver your deals, the more efficiently you can communicate with your investors, the more efficiently you can get to a negotiation, the more efficiently that you can communicate problems and solve them, then ultimately the more revenue, the more money, the more profit you can make. You absolutely have to learn how to streamline your property business so that you can scale it effectively. And the fourth thing that you really need to get a harness on is data and analysis. Now, I think my background in financial analysis, having worked as a financial analyst for the New York Stock Exchange, has played a massive role in my ability to really fine-tune this. But there are people out there doing exactly this who have no financial analysis background, who did not work for the world's largest and most famous financial institution, and they're fucking doing it and doing it well. So your wealth building journey will absolutely hinge on your ability to track your results. Remember, what gets measured gets managed. You have to track your results. You have to make informed, data-driven decisions. Knowledge is power. You have to have KPIs in your business, key performance indicators. You need to know week in, week out, what's the goal, what's the target, what were the actuals, what's the difference, where are we going wrong, how can we fix it? If you are fucking throwing mud at the wall, hoping that it will stick, good fucking luck. So what gets measured gets managed. If you don't know your numbers, you know fuck all else. How would you possibly know where the blind spot was in your business if you're not tracking it? Data and analysis is absolutely fundamentally, alongside marketing and sales, the biggest blind spot for so many people running their portfolio building businesses. If I were to start all over again, there's a few things I would do. So the first thing I would probably do is decide whether you want to self-educate or invest in a formal education of such. Now, full transparency, cards on the table. When I started this journey 8 years ago, being totally transparent, I didn't have the cash to invest in training, and I didn't manage to do that for about 6 months in. The reality is, I probably slowed down my progress, even though we did exceptionally well and generated 6 figures in those first 13 months. I left it too long to get the guidance, to get the coaching, to get the implementation. So that's the first thing you need to have a think about. The second thing that you need to do is create a clear and strategic business plan. Remember, what gets managed, what gets measured gets managed. You need to have a plan, a direction, a game plan, an action point. Keeping in mind that a pilot doesn't get on a plane to fly to his destination without a flight path, without a route, nor would you really want to get on a plane with a pilot who did not have that. Your business is the exact same. You need a clear, easy to read, easy to understand business plan. The third thing I would definitely do, and it took me a long time to master this, was the art of marketing and selling to attract investors to your service. Now, in order for that to be the case, you have to be confident in your abilities, you have to speak with conviction about the service that you offer, and you have to pounce on pain points. You have to pounce on pain points. Remember, you need to get inside the head and under the skin of the ideal investor that you really want to work with. For me, that's business owners. They're super busy, they're very time poor, they are very cash rich, they usually have 2.5 children. The Monday through to Friday is spent running high level multi-million pound businesses. The weekends are spent with the kids. That's who I want to attract, and I know their pain points inside out. You need to do the same with your ideal investor. The next thing I would definitely do quicker, and even my team will tell you this today, I am not perfect at this, but we are certainly much better than we used to be, and I now am privileged to have a team behind me who can take on the tasks that are not my strong points, but I would implement systems and processes that enabled me to scale quicker. A lot of the time, certainly for the first 12 months, everything I did was manual. Everything was pen and paper, old school. I was very resistant to bringing systems and software and platforms into the business. The reality is, once I did that, we were able to scale quicker and with less friction. And finally, I would keep a close eye on the key data that will help you optimize and grow your business. So where is the investment demand? Where are the highly sought after investment areas? What strategies are hot in your investment patch? Who can you have conversations with that can open the door to opportunities? Where are the investors that you really want to have on your books? If you're not attracting that type of investor right now, why not? What can you change? How can you present yourself to be a more attractive prospect to your ideal investor? That's it in a nutshell, guys. You need to perfect a skill set before you can truly own wealth in property. Now, the reality is, this is all not learnt overnight. This is not something that you're going to master in a heartbeat. This is a process. And I typically say that mastering the art of property sourcing, mastering those skill sets, typically takes around a year to really nail it down, to really hone in on exactly what it is that you do and how you do it well. Hopefully this has been of some use to you. We are all in the game of property because at one point in time, we made a decision in our lives that we wanted to create wealth in our life. Now, that initially starts from a lifestyle perspective, from a cash flow perspective, which is really where your sourcing element comes into play. And I tell all the guys I coach inside the 6-figure property blueprint, you have to have a dual approach. You can be here to get rich, but you can also get wealthy at the same time. So you need to have a cash flow element coming from your sourcing, and you need to have a dual approach of building your wealth through asset building. And that is where your wealth is based. Your sourcing is your lifestyle fund, and there is really no limit on what that revenue number can be. The higher that number is, the more systems, the more processes, the more skill sets that you will be required to have. Totally doable. You have your number per year. Pick it, stick to it. Hopefully this has been helpful, guys. I will see you again next week for another episode of the Property Sources Success Show. Bye.